Welcome back to Bookish Dives. If you've joined us before, you know we really enjoy, well, digging into books that offer some valuable perspectives.
Yeah, we've done a few of these deep dives already.
And today, we're excited to continue that.
Absolutely. There's just so much you can get from really exploring these kinds of books thoughtfully.
Yeah.
So today, our focus is on The Making of a Manager, What to Do When Everyone Looks to You, by Julie Zhuo.
You might recognize the cover. It's got that red paper airplane leading the white ones.
Right, and Daniel H. Pink actually highlights that it's great for new managers, helps them find their footing, stay on the right track.
Yeah, and what I think makes Zhuo's book so useful is how practical it is, especially for people just starting out in management.
Definitely. It kind of moves beyond that, like, high-level executive advice you sometimes see.
Exactly. It gets into the real day-to-day stuff of leading a team. I think Michael Bunga Stanier called it wise and practical.
Yeah, focusing on mastering purpose, people, and process right from the get-go.
Which feels really important.
And it's so relatable, too, because, like Zhu points out, most managers aren't these, high-profile CEOs in the headlines.
Right. They're leading smaller teams, could be teachers, coaches, administrators.
Planners, yeah, all sorts. But they all share that basic goal, helping a group achieve something together. These are the everyday leaders, and their challenges just as real.
Totally. So, okay, for this deep dive, our mission, let's say, is to pull out the key insights, the actionable stuff from Zhu's book. We want to help you navigate management, whether you're brand new or just, looking to sharpen your skills.
So where should we start? Maybe with the why. Zhu really emphasizes understanding the fundamentals.
Good idea. Let's dig into that. Why is understanding the basics so critical?
Well, what's interesting right away is Zhuo's focus on the why behind the practices. Not just, here's what you do, but why does this exist?
Okay.
Like, why do we even need managers? What's the actual value of one-on-ones? What logic should drive hiring?
Right, getting to the core reasoning.
Exactly. If you grasp those principles, she argues, you can tackle the how with way more clarity and, frankly, effectiveness.
And those hows, they seem to fall into three main buckets in her framework: purpose, people, and process. Let's start with purpose, the what.
Yeah, purpose, the what. It's all about having a clear and hopefully inspiring goal for the team, something that unites everyone.
So it's not just knowing it, but really believing it.
That's what Zhuo stresses. The manager needs to understand it, believe in it, and constantly communicate it. In team meetings, one-on-ones, even casual check-ins.
Keeping that what's front and center.
Absolutely. It's key for alignment, for motivation.
Okay, so that's purpose. Then there's people, the who, which is more than just filling slots, I assume.
Oh, definitely. The people part, as Zhuo sees it, is actively setting your team members up for success.
How so?
Well, do they have the right skills, the knowledge they need for that shared purpose? And crucially, are they motivated? Are they engaged?
So the manager's job is ensuring they have the capability and the drive.
Precisely. That might mean training, finding development opportunities, or just understanding what makes each person tick and supporting them that way.
Makes sense. And the third piece is process the how the team actually works together.
This is where, the rubber meets the road,
Yeah.
collaboration, execution.
Right.
Because you could have amazing people, a great goal, but if you don't have clear processes for how they collaborate, well, things can get messy.
Even simple stuff.
Yeah, totally. Clear roles, clear responsibilities, how decisions get made, all that process stuff is vital. Without it, you just run into problems, confusion.
She uses that lemonade stand analogy, doesn't she?
She does. It's pretty helpful. Like, Henry gets ingredients, Eliza makes the lemonade.
Yeah.
They need to know when Henry gets supplies, where Eliza finds them, what happens if they run out of lemons. It needs to be clear.
Otherwise, they're just scrambling instead of selling lemonade.
Exactly. Good processes, streamline things, stop that friction, that wasted time just trying to figure stuff out.
That analogy really makes it clear why process isn't just like boring bureaucracy. It enables the work.
Totally. Bad process leads to wasted effort, mistakes. It just hinders the team. It's the hidden framework for smooth operation.
Now, being a manager isn't static. Zhuo talks a lot about that shift from being an individual contributor, right? It changes your focus entirely.
Oh, fundamentally. As a manager, you're making a trade. You step back from doing all the tasks yourself.
And focus on
Empowering the team.
Yeah.
You give up some direct control, sure, but the potential payoff is much bigger team impact.
Like the lemonade stand again, if Eliza forgets sugar, it affects the whole thing, even if you didn't forget it.
Exactly. Your success is tied to the team's success now.
Which sounds a lot like that Andy Rove idea she brings up.
Yeah, Grove's point that a manager's output is measured by their team's output, not just how busy the manager looks.
So you could be working crazy hours, but if the team isn't delivering,
Then you're probably not being effective in that manager role. It's about enabling their achievement.
makes sense. She also mentioned the time commitment, lots of meetings and interactions.
Right. And while she says you don't have to be an extrovert, she mentions Spielberg, Eleanor Roosevelt.
Interesting examples.
Yeah. But the role does involve a lot of interaction. If you really thrive on long stretches of solo work, management might be a big adjustment.
And that distinction between management and leadership, she touches on that too, right? It's not the same thing.
Not at all. Zhuo sees leadership as more of a quality, a set of behaviors. Anyone can show leadership.
Not just the person with the title.
Exactly. Identifying problems, inspiring people, driving solutions. Great managers, she says, actually cultivate leadership in their team members. They don't try to be the only leader.
Empowering others to lead.
Right. And as the team grows, there's a point where you have to scale back your own individual tasks.
What is that typically?
Zhuo suggests around 4 or 5 direct reports. Trying to be a top individual contributor and manage a growing team just becomes unsustainable.
You spread yourself too thin.
Yeah. You risk doing neither job well. You got to prioritize the managing part, coaching, setting direction, clearing roadblocks.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Motivation. What makes people perform? Zhuo mentions Grove again here.
Yes, Grove's idea is pretty simple but powerful. If someone's not performing, it's usually one of 2 things.
Which are?
Either they lack the skills, or they have the skills but lack the motivation.
So the manager needs to figure out which one it is.
Exactly. Skill gap. Okay, focus on training, mentoring, maybe hiring differently. Motivation issue, that's different.
And how does Zhuo suggest handling motivation? Does caring mean always being nice?
Not necessarily agreeing with everything, no. She uses this funny analogy about her mom not giving her ice cream for breakfast.
Right.
Sometimes caring means giving honest, maybe tough feedback because you want them to succeed long term. It's about being direct and genuine.
And recognition seems huge for motivation, too.
Oh, absolutely. Genuine, specific recognition for hard work, using skills well, giving good advice, showing positive values, it's incredibly powerful.
Like the Strengths Finder idea, focusing on what people do well.
Exactly. She references that thinking. People thrive when they use their strengths. Recognizing that reinforces good stuff.
But then there's the flip side, the negative impact of difficult personalities. She mentions the no asshole rule book.
Yeah, she's strong on this. Creating an environment where people feel valued, respected, not put down. She shares a story about a colleague who was creative but dismissive.
And it caused problems.
Big problems. Wasted time, damaged relationships. Toxic behavior really undermines a team no matter how talented individuals are.
And sometimes you just can't force people to get along right. You can't always make it work.
That was a key learning for Zhuo. She initially thought she had to mediate everything, get everyone to agree.
But that's not always possible.
No. If someone's core motivations or values are just fundamentally mismatched with the team, just giving pep talks won't fix it long term. Sometimes you need to make a harder call for the team's health.
Which might mean letting someone go.
Which is tough, but sometimes necessary. Zhuo says handle it with respect, but be direct. It's not a negotiation.
And avoid making it sound like a personal feeling.
Right. She even mentions Patty McCord questioning the phrase getting fired, suggesting it sounds punitive, not like a difficult business decision.
Okay, let's talk feedback. Zhuo really digs into this. It's more than just pointing out mistakes. Yeah.
Oh, much more. Effective feedback includes praise, recognizing good work. That positive reinforcement can actually be more motivating sometimes than just criticism.
Creating a balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she really pushes for setting clear expectations up front.
To avoid problems later.
Yeah, it's preventative. Like if someone wants a promotion, have an honest talk early about the criteria, the timeline, even if it's unlikely soon.
Or for projects.
Same thing. Be clear on review frequency, success criteria, who decides what. It prevents misunderstandings. And she warns against that swoop and poop style.
Uh-huh.
Where a manager ignores something, then dives in late with huge disruptive changes without warning. Super frustrating for teams.
Yeah, I can imagine. But delivering feedback well is tricky in itself.
Totally. It's a skill. Zhuo uses the telephone game analogy. The message can get so distorted.
Wow.
Our own habits, rambling, being too indirect, trying to soften bad news too much with friendliness. It can all muddy the water.
So what are her tips for making feedback actually land effectively?
Be specific. Use clear examples. Show the why behind your comment.
Instead of just, that wasn't great.
Right. Say why. When you listed 7 goals, the audience seemed lost. Maybe focus on 1 or 2 next time and clarify what success would look like. Give them a target.
I like her idea of feedback as a gift. Changes the perspective.
It really does. It takes effort to give it, maybe courage, but it's ultimately for the other person's growth. Even mistakes become learning opportunities with good feedback.
She shares a story about getting a lot of feedback herself.
Yeah, a 20-page report early in her career.
Yeah.
She says it was incredibly impactful for her self-awareness and growth.
Wow. Which brings us nicely to knowing yourself as a manager. That seems foundational for Zhuo.
Absolutely critical. Understand your strengths, values, comfort zones, blind spots, biases. You need that self-awareness.
Why?
Well, how can you effectively understand and support a diverse team if you don't have a clear picture of yourself? She reflects on her own tendencies, liking small groups, writing, needing reflection time, long-term thinking. Knowing that helps shape her management style.
And she talks about self-doubt, imposter syndrome, feelings most people probably experience.
Very real feelings.
Yeah.
But she says you have to confront them. And she introduces this idea of calibration.
Calibration, what's that?
Basically, making sure your self-perception matches reality. How do others actually see your skills? She mentions the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Where people who aren't skilled overestimate their ability.
Exactly. Calibration helps counteract that.
So how do you calibrate? What does she suggest?
Practical stuff. Ask your own manager specific questions. Seek 360-degree feedback from peers, reports, your boss. Ask for task-specific feedback right after you do something.
Sounds kind of vulnerable asking for criticism.
It is. She acknowledges it's hard. But the payoff in self-awareness is huge.
What about triggers? Those things people do that really get under your skin.
Understanding your triggers is super insightful. It shows you where your growth areas might intersect with others' behaviors. Recognizing what sets you off helps you manage your reactions and maybe gives clues about how you affect others too.
And that feeling of being totally overwhelmed in the pit, she calls it.
Yeah, that feeling of struggling happens to everyone, especially with new challenges.
How do you cope?
Recognize it's universal. Allow yourself to feel bad. Don't judge yourself for it. And actively challenge those irrational negative thoughts that make it worse.
Visualization comes up too for confidence.
Yes. She mentions people like Sheryl Sandberg, Reese Witherspoon talking about their own anxieties. Visualization exercises can help.
Like what?
Recalling past successes, feeling that competence again, mentally rehearsing positive outcomes. It builds inner confidence.
I also liked her point about celebrating little wins.
Oh yeah, that's such a simple but powerful idea. Fights monotony, builds a sense of accomplishment day to day.
Builds momentum.
Exactly. Acknowledging small steps keeps you positive. And underlying all this, of course, is self-care, setting boundaries to avoid burnout.
So it seems like for Zhuo, managing is really about continuous learning. It's not a destination you just arrive at.
Absolutely not. It's ongoing. She pushes for seeking feedback from your own manager on skills to develop and enlist their help.
And reflection is key too.
Hugely key. Just having experiences isn't enough. You have to reflect on them to learn. Schedule time for it, even briefly. Set goals, review them, learn from wins and failures.
And training. Worth the investment.
Definitely. Even short courses. She mentions benefiting from one on difficult conversations. The ROI on development is often really high.
Okay, let's quickly touch on meetings. Often dreaded, but necessary, right?
Yeah, they get a bad rap, but sometimes you need them. Zhuo says the key is having a crystal clear objective for every single one. Are we deciding something? Brainstorming, sharing info, debating. Be clear on the purpose.
Any tips for running them better?
Shrink attendee lists if possible. Explicitly invite hard questions. Use structured formats sometimes, like going around the room or using Post-its so everyone contributes.
What about managing tricky group dynamics, like quiet people or someone who talks too much?
Create openings for quieter folks. Politely manage the overtalkers, maybe. Let's hear some other perspectives now. And ask for feedback on how your meetings are.
Good point. And guarding your own time seems important too.
Crucial. Don't go to meetings you don't need to be in. Well-run meetings boost performance. Bad ones cause frustration and burnout.
Now, hiring. Building the team. What's important there?
Delivering an amazing interview experience is huge, Zhuo says. Even for candidates you don't hire. Treat everyone well. She uses a Batman and Robin analogy with recruiters. It's a partnership.
And diversity.
Really important. She cites data linking diversity, gender, ethnicity, background to better financial returns and problem solving. Diversity of thought just leads to better ideas.
So you need a good process for recruiting.
A well-oiled machine, clear goals, trained interviewers, and think about building a bench of talent. The manager acts as a multiplier here. A strong team frees you up for bigger things.
It sounds like creating a culture that values hiring is key.
Totally. Celebrate new hires. Make it a priority.
Okay, final big areas. Vision, strategy, execution. How do these fit together?
Vision is the compelling long-term why. Like Facebook's early vision of connecting the world. It needs to be inspiring.
And strategy.
That's the believable game plan to get there. Eisenhower's quote comes up. Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. You need a strategy based on your team's actual strengths.
And prioritization fits in here.
Massively. Managers have to prioritize. You also need clarity on who's accountable for what, who makes which decisions.
And just getting things done, execution.
Right. Zhuo mentions iterative approaches, learning by doing, like sprint cycles. Strategy is great, but useless without good execution.
What does good execution look like?
Prioritize tasks, efficient decisions, speed, commitment, adapting when needed.
How do you balance short-term needs with that long-term vision?
It's a constant balancing act. Too much short-term focus, you miss opportunities. Too much long-term, you might not survive now. Define the long-term vision, then work backward.
She uses the Facebook like button example, right?
Yeah, evolving it into reactions. That was about aligning the product with the core mission, bringing people closer. It showed how development connects to vision.
And learning from execution. Debriefs.
Crucial. Retrospectives, debriefs, whatever you call them. Learn from what happened, good or bad, and share those lessons. Management is constant learning, adaptation. Like Heraclitus said, you never step in the same river twice.
Does the manager's role change as the team gets bigger?
Definitely. You shift from being on the front lines to more of a macro view, setting vision, hiring leaders, delegating effectively, communicating broadly.
How do you create that shared vision within the team?
Talk about priorities constantly. Connect individual roles to the bigger purpose, like the analogy of knowing whether you're laying bricks or building a cathedral.
And delegation. How do you decide what to delegate?
Delegate tasks others can learn from and grow into. Don't delegate your unique contributions that align with your top priorities. It's about developing your people.
But if you delegate a lot, what's the manager's value?
There are always new, bigger problems to solve. Your role evolves to tackle the next challenge.
Last topic, nurturing culture. How does a manager shape that?
Culture often comes up with job candidates, right? Zhuo says, talk about what you care about frequently, passionately. Sheryl Sandberg believed in having hard conversations that shapes culture.
But it's not just talk, right? Values need action.
Absolutely. You have to demonstrate the values. Zhuo tells a story about a manager who preached asking for feedback, but never actually did it themselves. That sends a message.
So incentives matter too, aligning rewards with desired behaviors.
Yes. She gives a design critique example where a simple rule show, 3 designs, actually led to worse outcomes because it incentivized quantity over quality exploration. You need to spot those incentive traps.
How?
Reflect. Is there a gap between our stated values and what actually happens? Why? And take action when behavior violates values, like dealing with rudeness promptly. It reinforces the norms.
Wow, so much there. It really highlights that managing well is a journey.
It is. Challenging, but rewarding. Zhuo emphasizes the value of having supportive leaders, colleagues, and teams along the way.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive into the making of a manager. Julie Zhuo really packs in a lot of practical, thoughtful advice for leading teams.
Definitely. From the why of management through feedback, self-awareness, strategy, culture. It covers so much ground for new and experienced managers alike.
We really hope that you, listening in, found these insights useful, maybe spark some thoughts about your own experiences.
Yeah, whether you're managing now, part of a team, or just observing leadership, hopefully there was something valuable there.
And if you enjoyed this exploration of Julie Zhuo's work, please do follow Bookish Dives. We'll be back with more deep dives into insightful books.
We look forward to having you join us again next time.